And welcome to our online special. My name is Doug Kooy. Well, yesterday I traveled to Kelowna to see firsthand the destruction that the fire has caused to that great city. To be honest, I was not prepared for what I saw. You know, I had the opportunity to live in Kelowna for a number of years, and when I flew in, I thought, well, you know, we'll be going and they'll be mopping up the fire, or it's not that big a problem. When I flew in, I saw flames everywhere on the mountains on the side, and it was quite scary, to be honest with you. And I had an opportunity to speak to a number of people while I was there. One of them was Bruce Wynn. I drove up to one of the hardest hit areas in Kelowna, and I talked to Bruce and Naomi Wynn. Now, Bruce and Naomi lost their house to the fire. And I talked to them in front of what remains of what was their dream house. I asked them about the experience and what it was like.
We watched it coming over the hills for the last since I guess the Monday before we had to evacuate, and we saw it moving every day, and I kept telling my wife, don't worry, it'll be fine. And but of course the realist she was making lists and starting to pack, so fortunately we did get quite a few things out of our home.
It has been quite difficult, you know. It's and I know that we have our lives, we've gotten out safely, and I am very thankful. I'm very thankful for that. I'm thankful to the Lord, but it's still, for me, it's been quite painful because it's your home. I think a woman, that's where it's an extension of ourselves, you know, and you've just spent lots of time in there, and you just really take pride in your home.
It was Thursday evening when we saw the fire come right over the ridge up there, and it was just an amazing experience. We were told we didn't even have an alert. You know how usually there's an evacuation alert first of all, then the order comes after. We never had the alert. We were just ordered out at about 10:30 in the evening, and we were basically told you got 30 minutes to leave.
I was trying to mentally prepare myself for things. I made a list of the things that were most important to the least important, and there are still things that I wished that I'd gotten out that I totally forgot about.
Fortunately, we had about 4 truckloads and 4 carloads of stuff we had hauled up. I had a dozen people helping us getting everything out of the house. So we did manage to get a lot of our contents out of the home, although now we're remembering things that we wish we had taken. But
then there were some things that I remembered that this morning that I had forgotten, some dishes that my grandma had given to me, and that are irreplaceable, and I had packed them neatly away. I was going to get a cabinet this fall to put things in, and I realized from watching the video on TV last night, we had taped a video of the house, I realized what was in those boxes, and I, it was very sad for me.
So we're looking at the home. What used to be a living room, I see a hot tub back there that is...
We just bought the hot tub just I think it was in June. We had just purchased the hot tub, brand new hot tub. We just put the pool in last summer. That'll have to be repaired as well.
And you got the trampoline that...
Yeah, whatever's left of it.
So they say that some of these homes literally almost exploded.
Well, I was told, a friend of mine works for BC Forestry. He was a fire warden. He was up here the night it went down. He knew our home, and he saw what was happening. First was just like a steam coming from the top of the roof, and then within 15 minutes the home was gone. It was just amazing. It didn't actually start on the shake roofs that a lot of people have thought. It actually was the heat was going through the soffits, from what I understand, and just so much heat, about 1,500 degrees inside the house, and it just evaporated in 15 minutes.
When I saw the flames crest the top of the hill in front of the homes, or behind the homes that are in front of us, I knew there was a big possibility, and that was probably around midnight when we had to leave.
It's been really hard. It's been harder on my wife than probably myself. She's a stay-at-home mom. She's here all the time in the house. She's realizing things that she's forgotten, and that's been really difficult for her. I realize we can rebuild the home. It's a material thing that we can rebuild. It's not like losing a loved one. Like on the weekend, I had come across an obituary in the newspaper. It was a fellow I know in town. His daughter passed away. That would be a lot more difficult than what we're going through, even though this is a traumatic loss, but it's not like the loss of a life.
There is a future, and there is a hope, and of course as a Christian that makes all the difference, knowing that you will be taken care of, that God will take care of us, and that He will be with us, and we really I mean, it's things that you grieve over, and I think it's natural to grieve over some of those things because it was your home and meaningful, sentimental things.
How has your faith helped you dealing with this?
Well, that's funny. I've kind of I haven't been going to church the last 2 or 3 years or so, but
You might be starting up again.
this has brought me back to church again. It's amazing, and it's an amazing story. I haven't been going for the last 2 or 3 years to church. My wife has been, and I know that's been difficult for her, not with me not going. Last Sunday morning, I said, I want to go to Trinity Baptist this morning. So we went to church, and it was a good experience.
Some good news. Bruce is going back to church.
He is. He said on Saturday night, he says, we're going to church tomorrow. And my daughter and I, we just looked at each other. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is great.
There's something that happens in our life that kind of jerks the slack out of us, and we start to go, what are the real priorities of life?
That's right.
And I think there's probably a lot of people that are starting to show up in church again.
I think so.
Because it just brings you back to reality, what is really important in life.
I think we need to ask ourselves, how can I grow through this? And what can I learn? What good can, it's the hook. When things are running smoothly, it's easy to trust God, but when things all of a sudden turn upside down, whether it's a life-threatening illness or your home or whatever it is, I think that's where the rubber kind of meets. It's just...
One person said to me one time, he said, God extracts from us during a time of war what we promised him during a time of peace. Bruce Wynn, good to see you again. I'm sorry it's under these circumstances, but I really enjoy talking to you. Thank you very much. You're handling this so well. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much.
I just talked to Lima 51. It's headed toward Crawford Estates, so I think that we'll have to make our stand at Marby Road. So this fire is traveling at an extreme rate. I am at Uplands. I am probably about, I would say about a half a mile away from probably a Category 6 firestorm. It's taking everything in its path. On the corner of Crawford and Stewart Road West. We're going to run, we got 3 pumpers here. We're going to redeploy them all. We're going to take this cord here and we're going to stand.
Yesterday I flew to Kelowna. I had to see it firsthand. I was out in front of a friend of mine's house. His name is Barry Clark. Some of you remember him from CKNW and a number of other radio stations here as a morning talk show host or a talk show host. And I went outside of his house. I saw a fire pump, and there it was. It still had the hose on it, and still had the wrench on top of it. They had just left. And the papers today, wildfire roars back to life, and BC history up in flames. Kettle Valley trestles burn. Now, if you have a story, if you're from Kelowna, if you visited Kelowna during the fires, if you have a story to tell us, give us a call, 1-866-NOW-TV10. We are very full tonight, but if we can, we'll get you on. And if you have a first-hand experience while being in Kelowna, give us a call. Had a chance to talk with Harley Lockhart. He's a longtime resident of Kelowna. He was able to save his home, or the firefighters were able to save his home. Others lost theirs right next to him. Here's that interview from yesterday afternoon with Holly Lockhart and myself. Your experience, what was it like?
Well, it's unreal. You still don't have, you know, I hear these helicopters like this. It sounds like, I imagined it was in Vietnam during the war there. We had no notice. We were just evacuated. We had started the process of having somebody come in to clean up the place. Now the fire's turned and it appears to be coming back here. We had actually brought some of our things back and put them in the garage, and I came up here just now to pick them up. I'm taking them back out.
Yeah, in your life, have you ever experienced anything quite like this?
Absolutely nothing like this. I think it's going to be some time before the impact of this really sinks in. It's such a sudden, devastating thing.
Yeah, the rebuilding process, we're watching people that are in what used to be their homes. Yeah. And, you know, it's hard to even describe it in words. We're going to try to show you folks as much as we can what it's like, but you can't really experience it until you experience it. And this is amazing. Well, thank you for your time, and hope everything goes really okay for you.
Well, one thing is that we're all optimistic, and once this is cleaned up, it's going to be better than it ever was. Most people are planning to rebuild, and we're looking forward to having our neighbors back.
Well, coming up a little bit later, we'll have a live report from Kelowna from Stan Biggs, and also we're going to have an interview with Jerry Zimmerman, who happens to be the fire chief. But before we go there, Joan Richter is one of the top real estate salespeople in Kelowna. Matter of fact, she sold my wife and I our house when we moved to Kelowna. She's sold so many homes to people that had lost their homes in the fire, and I thought it'd be quite an interesting thing to talk to her about that. Matter of fact, she left the area because she had to be evacuated, and so she was one of the evacuees, is what I'm trying to say. So here's that interview with top real estate salesperson Joan Richter. This is the first time you've actually had an opportunity to drive up here and see the devastation. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
It's just mind-boggling. I just can't hardly comprehend it. And then to see the big clouds in the distance and to hear the helicopters, it just does something to your heart. My heart goes out to those men that are fighting this fire. Like, there's many of the loggers and the equipment operators that are right on the edge of the fire, you know, and day after day now we're going into our third week. I just can't imagine how hard it is for them, and the air they must be breathing. I have found the last 2 weeks to be extremely emotional. You're happy for some of your clients because they haven't lost their homes, and you're crying with other clients and friends because they have lost their homes. It affects so many things, you know, like because you're out of your home, you're away from everything that's familiar. It's just been a very, very emotional time.
How do you feel Kelowna is going to respond, or is responding?
Well, I think Kelowna is just, if you can roll out a red carpet in a tragedy, I think Kelowna's done that. Everybody is just offering everything they can. People are giving money, they're giving their time, they're giving their possessions, they're opening their homes. It's just been wonderful to see the community pull together, and I think that's really a wonderful thing because it draws us together again. Like we seem to almost live in our own houses and not know our neighbors. And then when something like this happens, then we care about everyone. Everyone's important.
We really didn't lose our family. We didn't lose what makes a home a home.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's probably what you've noticed. You've sold people homes, but you really haven't provided a home for them. The home is what is inside that house, and
That's right.
that's amazing.
Yeah. No, we each make our own home. We make our own haven. And, a home is a wonderful thing, and it's a place where we go and we feel totally comfortable, or we should feel totally comfortable. And when that's taken from someone, that's a big loss. But there are much bigger losses that we can have, and I think that it's just a miracle that no one has, been seriously injured, and we haven't lost any lives.
We seem to have a little bit more control over this one here, so if there are other guys up here, yeah, we could use them. We're just trying to keep the houses from going. We've made a stand on a couple of spots, and it's working.
Do the best you can up there, Task 2. I can't get you any more guys. I can't get them up there.
Roger that. We'll be okay.
Okay, the fire has gone past you. It's gone past you, so there's no threat from any flank on you. So if you stay in Kettle Valley, you should be okay.
Roger that. We're just trying to save the houses now. We realize we're okay.
Up in the canyon, I can see the black smoke going up. We're probably a quarter mile away. We're setting up. We got a good green belt behind us. We're going to try to save that corner, starting at Stewart Road East and Crawford Road.
So there you have the actual recording of the firefighters talking back and forth as the fire was raging. Some people say it got as high as 400 or 500 feet. Some people estimate that at one time the wall of fire was 700 feet coming down the mountain. If you can possibly even imagine that. One of the people that is so busy right now, but he took time to speak to us. As I said, I went to Kelowna yesterday. I just had to go. I had to see it firsthand. Jerry Zimmerman, he is the fire chief, which right now, to be honest with you, has got to be the toughest job in Kelowna right now. He's a great leader, and here's our conversation from yesterday afternoon with Jerry Zimmerman. Have you ever seen anything like this in your whole career?
No, and I don't think anybody else around here has either. Maybe people down in California have, but this is in Canada. This is something totally new and just unbelievable.
What kind of hours are these guys putting in?
Well, at the height of it, there was guys that were working probably around the clock, because we needed them, and they just didn't want to quit and go home. When there was houses burning down, they felt they had no choice. So we have knocked back since then, but now with things starting to kick up again, we're probably going to be up to some long hours again.
I'm feeling something right now that you're probably pretty happy to feel. We are feeling some rain as I'm doing this interview, and a lot of people have been praying for that. So this could be a good sign. It
could be. I hope it's more than just a shower. I hope it, what we need is a downpour, because a little bit of rain isn't going to make a lot of difference. We need rain for 3 or 4 days straight before it's really going to stop this thing.
From a personal level, there was a couple of people trapped in behind the lines. You did not know it was your son, Chris, at the time. When you found that out as a father, you forget the fire chief here, but just as a father, it's got to make you just cringe a little bit.
Sure it did, and even when they didn't tell me he was in there, I didn't know it was him, or he was one of them, because there were quite a few of them. I think there were about 20 of them, better more than 20 of them trapped in there, but at this stage of the game, they all seem like my sons anyway. They're a good bunch of kids and a good bunch of guys, so.
You guys have tremendous support from the community. What's that mean to you?
It keeps us going. The guys have been giving everything they've got, and that community support is what keeps them going, keeps their morale up. This, now that it appears to be coming back on us, has knocked us down a little bit again, and you see a lot of emotions come out, a lot of long faces. But we know the community's 100% behind us. there have been hundreds and hundreds of signs of things that have been dropped off at the hall, and the letters and cards, and we just know that they know we're doing everything we can, and that's what makes it special.
I flew in here this morning thinking that I was going to kind of come and do a nice little story about, you know, Kelowna and how you are now getting on. And all of a sudden when I flew in, I saw those flames. And I said, this thing is far from over. And it was scary. Coming back to the city, the emotions that I felt was just amazing. And, you know, as we kind of flew in, I looked at that and I said, oh my God. And I knew that I needed to sit down and talk with you about that, because really, it's not over, is it?
No, and we've known that for a long time. We thought the worst was behind us. We honestly wanted to believe that the worst was behind us, but we knew there was so much potential up there. There's so much fuel load up in there. Everything is so dry that we knew that we hadn't seen the end of this monster yet, and that when it came up with a vengeance it did last night, well, we realized that's a long way from over.
Talk to me just a little bit about these guys that work for you. They're a special breed. I mean, they are amazing. I can see it, the emotion in your face, but I mean, the work. We just don't understand the work that's involved, the physical labor that is involved to fight this fire.
No, a lot of people don't. Like, we'll get all kinds of calls and suggestions. Well, why don't you just set up a big water cannon? Why don't you, get a lot more people out there with shovels? People don't understand the magnitude of it, how big this thing is and what the guys are actually facing. They're risk takers. They have to be in this job. They're team players. They got a strong brotherhood, and that's what keeps them going. So they are a special breed. They're a different breed, and they're fighting something that I'm not sure we can beat it, but we're giving our best shot.
The height of the fire, some people said it was going up 700 feet. Is that right?
I've heard all kinds of stories, and you hear again, I don't know. I've heard 200, 300, 400 feet. And it doesn't really matter. Once it's that high and it's moving to, creating its own wind, you've got a wall of flames that there's not any equipment in the world that's going to stop it. You can have every fire truck and BC stick standing out there pouring water on it, ain't going to help it.
You've probably had friends that have lost homes.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, 3 of my guys here have lost their homes, and 3 people associated with the RCMP lost theirs, and 1 in the ambulance, and that's just the emergency workers, plus many, many others. There's 230, I believe 238 was the last count. So everybody either knows somebody or is associated with somebody who's lost a home.
One other, we're getting wet out here, which is kind of a nice thing. You're probably enjoying it.
I don't mind this at all. We can stand out here forever. This is what I've been waiting for.
This is great stuff. Just one other thing on that. You have become, to a certain degree, just like Giuliani in New York, there was a leader that came out of that, and your reputation in BC and literally, through parts of the world now, you've become well known. How have you been handling that? They're very impressed, and rightfully so. You've been doing a great job here. You're doing a good job of leading, but how have you been handling that?
Well, it's a little bit tough. I'd be lying to you if I said it wasn't flattering and you didn't enjoy a certain part of it. But all it amounts to is having good people around you and letting them do their jobs. They're the ones that come up with the plans. They're the ones that are out there fighting a fire. Not me. And so it's flattering, but it's everybody behind me that's making it possible.
And you got to be careful what you say, because I understand you said something about we could really use a good beer.
Yeah, and it kept flowing in. Hey,
have you counted how many cases have come in?
I'd hate to tell you because I don't even know. It's been unbelievable, but and I've said a few other things that have kind of got me in trouble. But
I understand you might not be running for a political office anytime soon because some of the comments you made.
No, I don't think I'd make a good politician.
The mayor doesn't have to worry, right?
No, him and I are real good friends, and he's got his job and I got mine, and that's the way it's going to be.
That's the way it's going to stand. All right. Well, Jerry, I thank you for filling us in a little bit. One other thing, actually, how many guys are out there fighting right now?
Right now, at this given time, we've probably got in the neighborhood of 60 out there, and they're actually not fighting the fire right now. They're gelling houses, putting retardant on them, and setting up contingency plans for if it comes in. They're doing spot checks in the burned out areas. There's lots of hot spots yet, and there will be for a long time to come. So we're just they're out there just following this thing through. So
what I'm hearing you say is this pretty much has to burn itself out because you can't really fight this one, right?
No, from what we've heard from the forestry this morning is that's almost what's got to happen. They're right now they're hitting it with helicopters, but they can't put men anywhere near this thing with the way it's going. When it dies down, they do get in there with the ground crews, and so they can fight it a little bit, but not when it's coming at you rank 6 and wide open.
You must be very pleased. I mean, this is an understatement. No loss of life.
That was our biggest. What I felt was the biggest thing. We lost. Like I said, 230 some homes. We evacuated 30,000 people, and from what I understand, it was the largest, quickest evacuation in Canadian history. And we got to be proud of that. And not one person injured or hurt. That, to my way of thinking, is the most important thing.
You've been through a lot in your life, Jerry, and I know your history, and this is just another part of that. How do you personally put up to some of these tests in life that you've had to deal with?
Well, you rely on your family a lot. You rely on your friends, and we got a really good thing going here with our people. You know, lots of support from my guys, and even in my personal life, it was good community support I had, and that's what keeps you going. It's I wouldn't tell you that we're not getting tired. I wouldn't tell you that I would rather be sitting on a beach in Mexico, but that's not to be for a while yet. So.
Hopefully this rain will pick up. That might happen.
I sure hope so.
And hopefully, thank you very much for taking the time.
You're more than welcome.
Dash 1 to Captain Moody. No, we can't really get out through Viewcrest or Oakview right now.
I know you can't get out Chute Lake, and I know you can't get out Uplands. You guys take all your guys, go back to Kelowna Valley, sit in the center there, and make a defensive position there.
Task Force 3, go ahead, Moody. We're out.
I think it's time. I'm coming along Lakeshore here. Looks like she's coming pretty hard at you, so I think it's time to go.
Not really. It's really starting to come. It's kind of a bit of ahead of us already.
Time to go. Let's get out of there.
Wow. Up this morning over a cup of coffee, you read BC history up in flames, Kettle Valley trestles burned, wildfire roars back to life, the province. They say it's going to cost $30 million if they rebuild the trestles in that area. If you can possibly believe that, $30 million to do that. Had an opportunity to talk to J.P. Squire, who is an outdoor columnist for the Daily Courier. He's been a resident of Kelowna for many, many years. He talked to me about the effects of the fire and especially the devastation to the Kettle Valley Railway and especially to the Myra Canyon area. Let's take a look at that interview.
The Myra Canyon, it was a section of the Kettle Valley Railway built 1907 to 1915. The Myra Canyon is actually one of the most beautiful places up there. In this little 5-mile stretch of canyon, there's 18 trestles, 16 wood trestles, 2 steel spans, and 2 rock tunnels. So in that one little stretch there, you get just an incredible view of the city and all these. As I say, to me, it was the most perfect example of natural beauty combined with men's engineering genius, basically, to put a rail line through this canyon.
And people worked so hard to go up there, and they had taken some of the railroad tracks out, made a beautiful, walking path, bicycle path. I can remember when I was living here, they had finished that up and had actually been able to put the wood planks across the trestles, and absolutely gorgeous. And now we understand that at least 2 of them are gone. And they're talking about the rest of them will probably go by evening.
Only a 10 to 20% chance that they'll last the day, apparently.
Now, you've covered a lot of things in your life. Have you ever covered anything close to this?
Nothing like this at all. As I say, when I look at the history of the Daily Courier and we do these look-backs, 25, 50 years look-backs, we've never seen anything like this. The Daily Courier basically has been filled with stories about the fire for 2 weeks now, and it's still going on. We've never had anything like this before.
You personally, how's it affected you?
Personally, because both my companion and I, we spend a lot of time in the hills. We bike, we hike, we do all kinds of things in the hills, horseback ride. This has been just devastating. When you look at the south slopes there, we've been on so many of those trails up there, and now they're basically gone. It's probably like a ghost town up there now.
How do you think economically and tourist-wise and all that, this fire is going to affect it.
In the short term, it's been very, very bad. We've talked to the tourist operators, and in the short term, it's been very bad. People are thinking there's a fire, we don't want to come to Kelowna. But you have to remember, in the long term, all this money is going to be coming from outside. With 240 houses destroyed, we're talking about millions and millions of dollars worth of construction. I think there's going to be a boom here for the next 6 months, the next year, maybe the next 2 years, simply because all this outside money, all this insurance money is going to be coming in. People are going to be building houses, they're going to be buying all these furnishings, they're going to be spending lots of money.
Yeah. So there always is a little bit of an upturn to some of the downturns.
You bet.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. As J.P. Squire, columnist for the Daily Courier. You're wondering how I'm here and how I'm there. Well, it's very simple. I traveled to Kelowna yesterday and took the time to talk to a number of people, put the interviews together. I had to see it firsthand, so that's why that's working the way it's working tonight. Kind of by chance, I ran into Christine Weiss, I guess it is. She's with the BC Forest Service. She was putting up some posters on a wall, and I looked at that, and it really hit me how fast this fire is growing. And she showed me in graphic detail how fast the fire was growing, and let's take a look at that interview. We have Christine Weiss with us. You have a map that you just put up, Christine. What is this telling us here?
Okay, this is a thermal image of the Okanagan Mountain Fire. Currently it's 22,800 hectares in size, and this yellow portion right here is the area that grew yesterday with the high winds.
That's just one day.
One day, and that was 1,700 hectares that it expanded yesterday. And it's currently in the Myra Canyon, where there's about 18 trestles from the Kettle Valley Railway. 2 of the trestles have been burned and 2 are damaged currently.
So what's the estimation on this? Are they hopeful that they can save some, or are they feeling that at the time they may all go?
They may all go. And one of the reasons is that the fire is moving in a northeasterly direction. It's very steep terrain, very heavily forested, and the prevailing winds are moving in that direction. So it is possible that there's about 18 of them.
How about homes in this area? Is there anything that we're concerned about at this point?
There are no homes in the proximity of Myra Canyon that I'm aware of. The homes are all sort of in this area up here. The homes that were damaged a week ago Friday, or about 2 weeks ago, they're in this area here. And for example, Black Mountain is there, and I think the Joe Rich area is up here, and the June Springs area is in here.
And Gallagher's Canyon would be where?
Gallagher's Canyon would be right around there, that area there. So you can see it's actually still quite a ways, about perhaps 5 or 6 kilometers from those populated areas, and it is moving in a northeasterly direction. So it's kind of moving parallel to the populated areas in about 5 kilometers away.
Is there a chance that can change, or with wind that could bring it back in towards the city? Is that a major concern?
I think it is a concern. I don't know if it's a major concern. They have evacuated those areas, as a possibility, just because it grew so much yesterday, and the winds had changed. They had been previously going in a southeasterly direction. Now they're moving in a northeasterly direction. So they are concerned that if there were some significant winds and they changed and started to move due north, that they could hit those populated areas. But right now it is moving in a northeasterly direction.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Have a good day.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks.
She had mentioned in there that the fire was 5 kilometers from some of the homes, as if that was a long ways away. When you think about it, it's, 3 miles? And a fire that's traveling as fast as that fire is going? The fire chief himself said, we may not have experienced the worst yet. That is a scary thought. Well, I talked to a pastor that I ran into also. His name is Kim. Keep wanting to say Ken. Sorry about that. Kim Unrah. And he's a local pastor. He gave some special insight to what has been happening in the church community of Kelowna. And let's hear what Kim has to say. It's interesting how something like this brings a city together, but does it also bring organizations together, like churches? Are you finding that the churches cooperating together and praying for one another and kind of saying, let's lay down some of the denominational differences, you might say, and let's really get after this.
Yeah, we found some churches were really good at emergency care. Trinity Baptist was fantastic. Tim Schroeder with some emergency care, providing facilities for large meetings. They had a meeting for all the affected homes that might have been destroyed by the fire, and so Trinity did very well. Willow Park is doing a meeting down at Skyreach on Sunday to thank the firefighters and to rally the city. So different churches have played different roles, and we've been in contact to find out what role each church is to play. We provided some different services, a movie night for the families because they didn't know what to do with their kids, because they were all in a hotel room or different families, and so we said, come on down and we'll pray for you, we'll care for you, hand out some toys. And so each different church has been able to participate and to give according to their flavor and their gift mix.
Are you finding that to times like this, people start to say, hey, maybe I need to get some of my priorities together?
Well, we have over 900 firefighters, hundreds of units of apparatus, heavy equipment, and we're finding that the forces of nature are too much, and that's why we lost all the homes. And whenever nature overwhelms man, man turns to God. It's like, well, maybe there's somebody that's more powerful than me that's actually in charge, in control. And so you have trench prayers, you know, and when in the World War I or World War II, and we're finding that people are praying more than they have. They're saying, my property was not as precious to me as my family and relationships, and I want to find some answers. I want to find a place of comfort. I find that all my stuff can't comfort me right now, and so they are returning to prayer and to church. And so we just want to be available for people who are looking for the real big question as to what's going on in our planet, and where can I find peace, who's in control here, and if there is a God, what does he have to say to me? And so we're trying to attend to those questions.
One little theological question, which is always kind of fun. Yeah. You get into a situation like this and people call it an act of God. Is this an act of God?
Well, the insurance company believes it's an act of God whenever they have to pay out a lot, and then it's an act of man whenever they don't. So it's very interesting where, you know, our school systems say, you know, the evolution is where we came from, but when it comes down to one of these, it's an act of God. Is this an act of God? I believe that God is in control and that nothing happens without his permission. I do believe that we are in a spiritual war, and so the enemy desires to consume, to kill, to steal, and to destroy. That's his desire. So when you get a fire like this, I believe it's a desire of the enemy of our souls to attack us, to attack our city, and that God is on our side. And sometimes he allows things to wake us up or to draw us closer to himself or to get our attention. But God is full of mercy and full of love. And so what we're saying is that God is for you. And so come, and whatever chaos you're finding yourself, it's time to actually come back to God and say, I want you to give me some understanding, some peace, and I need to be loved by you, because this has caused so much chaos in me. What I need right now is love.
Yeah, what a good comment. What we need right now is some love happening. A lot of love is happening in Kelowna. It was encouraging to see everybody reaching out, and it was absolutely a great experience being in the city of Kelowna. Coming up, going to be talking with Stan Biggs. He'll be calling in live from Kelowna to give us a current update on what is going on in Kelowna tonight, and also what has transpired today, how many of the trestles are left, and that type of thing, and a few personal stories. We'll come back with Stan Biggs right after this.
Clothing for online is provided by The Bay Langley. Seasonal men's and women's fashions for all occasions. More than you came for at The Bay. Accommodations for online are provided by Ramada Surrey Langley. When in town, stay at the Ramada Surrey Langley. Country comfort, city service.
#1-866-NOW TV 10. Once again, if you have been in Kelowna while the fires were there and you have a story to tell, we would like to hear from you. 1-866-NOW TV 10. So make your phone calls. From Kelowna, calling in, journalist and Now TV correspondent from the interior, Stan Biggs. Stan, good to have you here.
Good to be with you, Nick.
Yeah, actually, you're not here. We're talking to you in Kelowna, but that's all right. Well, fill me in a little bit, Stan. I left yesterday afternoon. They were quite concerned. They said that the winds might possibly be coming up. If that happened, there were going to be huge problems. I talked to the fire chief there, Stan, and he told me that the worst could yet come to Kelowna.
Jerry's right about that, but thankfully tonight is a quiet night, and they've downgraded the winds to below 20 K for tomorrow, and there's rain coming tomorrow night and on Sunday, so there's a fair amount of optimism, even though 6 of the trestles have gone, and on 2 of the metal ones, 2 more, the tops were burned off.
So they say 6 have gone and 2 of the metal. Well, you know, that's better news than what I had heard, because I heard that I think there's 64 trestles altogether. Is that right?
I don't think there's quite that many, but I mean, just one of them goes and it breaks the trail, doesn't it?
Yeah, and they were talking that if it burned down all of the trestles, the cost would be $30 million to replace them.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal amount.
Yeah, I wonder how wise that would be. It would almost be like you don't want to put like a suspension bridge across there or something. That would be a lot less expensive. But anyway, that's up for them to decide.
Right.
What's been the flavor of the city today? I know when I was there, Stan, it seemed like people were disappointed, or, you know, it's like they've been going so long and all of a sudden it hit again.
Well, I was with a member of Parliament today, and Miles, his associate, first time out, he was fine with it. Second time, he's angry. And I think you've got a curious blend of angst and anger and flip-flopping back and forth. You've got optimism. You've got a whole lot of conflicting emotions. And so while it's a peaceful night on the Western Front, there's still an awful lot of discombobulation, you might say, and displacement.
People don't realize, I think sometimes we see this on the news and stuff, we don't realize that while you're in Kelowna, you're always aware of the fire. You see it from everywhere you go in Kelowna. I mean, it's always on your mind. And then when I was there, and I don't know if this is a regular thing or not, Stan, but the smoke drives you crazy. I have a raspy throat. I still do today. And
that's probably the most difficult thing for a lot of the folks there, you know, especially those who are older.
Yeah.
Even though it might look good and the thing is quiet, it's just terribly uncomfortable for a lot of them.
Wow. What are some of the personal stories that you're hearing, Stan? You talk to a lot of people. You are a journalist there. Have you picked up on some of the personal side of this?
Oh, there's thousands of stories. Today I stood in the ashes of our friend's home where we celebrated Christmas parties and deep friendship. I stood there with a member of Parliament and another woman who at the moment, her house was being threatened earlier on today. And we stood right beside the home of the guy that owns the orchids, Steve Bell, whatever his name is, and our best friend's right next door. And I'll tell you what, when you meet these people eyeball to eyeball, there's something transcendent in every last one of them. There's a relinquishment, there's a strange freedom, and you know, I sort of envy it.
You know, it's quite strange. I almost ran into you yesterday, and we didn't even realize it.
Yeah, I saw you, actually.
Yeah, I was doing some reporting, you know, doing some of the reports that we have for tonight, and you drove by, and I didn't see you. But I did not have time to get up into the one area that I wanted to go into. Curlew Road, yeah.
Yeah, I went there today.
What is that like?
Well, you know, you think a capricious deity was playing checkers with people's feelings. There's no rational explanation for the track of that fire, as you've seen 1,000 times. You know, it'll skip 2, miss 1, take 6, leave 1, and the fire lines are sometimes within a foot of the next door neighbor, and it's the strangest and the oddest thing you've ever seen. And it makes you cry, because especially for us who are adjacent to the neighborhood, those are the kids that my little boy plays with, and we've been in many of those homes. And to go through what has now become almost a memory, it takes your breath away.
It must, and you know, I can hear the emotion in your voice. Mm-hmm. You know, the fortunate thing, as we've mentioned over and over again, there has been no loss of life.
Exactly. Do you know what I thought when I was driving through Curlew today? I thought through the lens of their misfortune, it's evident to me that the rest of our lives have to change as radically as theirs if we're going to become fully human and alive.
Yeah.
You know, got to change. Can't stay the same.
Stan, you've been through a lot of things. I've asked a number of people the same question today, and I'll ask you. Mm-hmm. You've been through a lot in your life. I know you quite well. Have you ever lived through anything quite like this?
Well, no one. I don't think very many people have. But I got to hasten to say that a lot of your viewers tonight who have never seen a fire close up are going through things that are far more terrifying and far more life-threatening and far more difficult to deal with than a fire. And I think it's a very easy thing for us in Kelowna or the other fire areas in the province to focus on our fear, and to the exclusion of incredible pain that is in the lives of many of those who are miles from here. I think we need to have a fairly balanced view and not to get caught up in the immediate.
Yeah. I was quite surprised at how close the fire was. I don't know, I'm going to